This is the Volkswagen Amarok, which celebrates its 10th birthday this year. Now, when it launched with a 2-litre 4-cylinder twin-turbo under the bonnet, Australian buyers said, "We want more." So Volkswagen came back with a 3-litre turbocharged V6, and now that accounts for over 80% of Amarok's sales. But apparently, Australian buyers still want more, and so Volkswagen has answered again, and now this car features something exclusive to the Australian market: a 3-litre V6 Amarok with a 6-speed manual transmission and low-range transfer case. So is this finally the Amarok you wanted? Well, let's get it dirty and find out. The manual drivetrain forms the entry point to the V6 Amarok range and is available in Core and Core Enduro trim. Pricing starts at $49,590 before on-road costs. Offering 165 kilowatts that extends to 180 kilowatts on overboost, and 500 newton meters of torque, available nice and low at 1250 RPM. All models feature 17-inch wheels with Michelin LTX Force all-terrain tyres, rear camera and parking sensors, and front fog lamps, but the Enduro adds the tinted bonnet protector, side decals, and black sports bar, all valued at around $1,200 for no extra cost. So I guess you'll all be buying the Enduro then. There are 6 paint colours available, everything bar white, attracting a $700 premium, and our car is Indium Grey. Now, if you know the Amarok already, nothing but the driveline has changed. There's still the large tub with over 1200mm between the arches. Up front, there's a 6.3-inch media screen with support for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and a lot of blank switches to remind you this is the range entry model. But you're not buying this car for buttons. You're making a choice to be in control of that driveline. Now, before we get stuck into the thick of things, let's talk about the car. The Core is the entry-level vehicle. As I said before, it's pretty basic, but it still feels really well built. And even though these cloth seats are cloth seats, they're very comfy and quite supportive. And you could certainly see yourself doing some long miles in these things. Yes, there's a lot of blanking plates there. It's kind of like an advent calendar of what you might be missing. But again, you're not buying this car for all the bells and whistles. As an off-road enthusiast, that you would choose this car, this is giving you what you've really wanted, and certainly what you've asked Volkswagen for. As you can see, it's a lovely day here, but in a way, it actually makes this environment a little bit more accommodating to putting the Amarok to the test. Now, first and foremost, we will say that the ZF 8-speed automatic and the constant 4-motion all-wheel drive system that you would find in other V6 models is still a very capable machine. The Amarok's had 10 years to be a proven performer on and off-road. What this car gives you with the manual transmission and the theme of where we'll go with the testing today is it gives you control. What is interesting is that we are in 2-wheel drive at the moment, and this car in the rain on this clay surface is slipping everywhere. So we're going to pop it into 4x4 high, which can be done on the fly. Now, what this means is we now have our front wheels activated in the car for a little bit of extra traction and support. But still, this is not really changing anything. We haven't changed our gearing. So watch this. I'm going to stop, pop the car into neutral, and press the 4x4 low. Now, what this will do, we've changed it in. We still haven't locked our rear diff lock, but we have tremendous takeoff. Now, you can probably hear that above the rain, that the engine is revving. We're doing about 2,500 revs at the moment, and we are barely moving. And that's the crawl capability that comes with the low-range gearbox, and where the elements of control that put you truly in the driver's seat of this car really comes to fruition. Okay, so we're approaching a series of moguls that will get the car undulating and going through, and you can see we're in high range 4-wheel drive at the moment. Well, that the car is doing it okay, but let's just stop, pull it into neutral, pop it into low range, light is on, and we are literally just going to walk through these now. And you can see the car, probably even hear the car, is just walking over these things. It's slipping around a reasonable amount. This surface is a very clay-like ground, obviously with the water, and it is, you can probably tell it really is raining, is making it very slick and very slippery. But the car's just walking through this. There's not really anything that's starting to stress the car or the driver at this particular moment in time. As well as being a unique model for Australia, the 6-speed manual gearbox is itself a unique part for this car. It's based on the existing Amarok manual transmission, but the ratios have all been tweaked to suit the V6. Mated to the low-range transfer case, the system is as old school as you'll get for a 2020 Volkswagen. In its most basic high-range mode, you know the drill, you row the gears and drive the rears, but things get a little more technical once you need the confidence of four-wheel drive. As we were filming, the rain got even heavier, but luckily our own Sam Purcell got his hands on the manual Amarok when conditions cleared. Let's see how he got on.
Thank you, James. Currently driving in some pretty sloppy, pretty steep and pretty rutted conditions as well in this V6 manual Amarok. I've got to say, so far I'm quite impressed. The automatic Amarok itself, 8-speed, no low range, but a pretty comprehensive traction control system, is capable as well. This just obviously goes about it in a slightly different way. The automatic Amarok has a bit of a point and shoot nature about it. The electronics take care of everything. You don't have to worry about clutches and gear changes and all that sort of thing. But this Amarok with relatively low gearing does give you a little bit more control over what's happening. Because this thing has low range, you can drive it differently to the automatic Amarok, and it's actually got a good reduction in that low range first gear. It goes down to 51:1, which is one of the best amongst the dual cab utes. It's 2.7 in the transfer case if you want to really know the numbers, and 5:1 in first gear, which is pretty good. It means you can lean on that low rev off-idle torque that this V6 has, and it goes nice and slow. To give a good idea of the sort of gearing this Amarok has and the hill descent control it has on top of that, got a really steep descent here. It's concrete, but it is a little bit slippery. It's had a few cars up and down it today, so there is a bit of a covering of mud and dirt on it, so it'll be interesting to see how this Amarok handles it. All right, so just approaching it now, I'll go into first gear. I'm already in low range and I've got off-road mode on. So I'll just keep it in that gear, line myself up, and I'll take all my feet off the pedals and let the car do the work. So it's about straight there, I reckon. There we go, so this is all car. You can hear the traction control kick in there straight away. But that's mostly engine braking at the moment, pretty much all engine braking. That kept around 2 k's an hour for a very steep descent, so I call that pretty good. One thing to note with this Amarok, it does have a locking rear diff as well, although the off-road traction control and the rear diff don't both work at the same time. The locker is only in low range, but when you turn it on, off-road is off, so that means your front end is a bit open, so it's kind of like 1 step forward, 2 steps back a little bit. Sometimes it's better just to use off-road mode and not use the rear locker at all. And the other weakness for the Amarok, which is still here a bit, is ground clearance. It just sits a little bit lower compared to other dual cab utes. Although I've got to say, given this bash plate a couple of decent hits today and it stood up well, so you're not going to get damaged, but you just might get hung up before other utes. And in this sort of sloppy stuff here, having a V6 with nice torque right through the rev range, peak torque's about 1500 RPM, which is nice and low. It's happy just to churn along. You don't need to wring its neck too hard. It's geared well. It's much more enjoyable to drive off-road. All right, now we're out of the bog. James, back to you.
Well, on a rainy old Melbourne day, has the manual transmission made this Amarok do things that we've never seen possible before? It's certainly impressive, but we've had 4Motion, 8-speed ZF automatic equipped Amaroks in all sorts of circumstances, and they have made their way through it. But what this car is a choice of control. Consider this, if you or I were going to go and buy a sports car, we all know that automatic PDK multi-clutch transmission is going to be faster, more efficient, more accurate than you or I will ever be. But certainly I, and probably most of you, would choose a manual transmission where it's available because it gives us control and makes us feel more engaged. And that's what this car is. It gives you a choice. That low-range first gear crawl ratio means that you are in control. The car's never going to shift up gear because it thinks it wants to or needs to. The choice is always yours. And that's what the manual V6 Amarok comes down to. A very capable car on a very proven platform that now gives you the ultimate Amarok choice.